SportsWrap with Jason Page starts now.
And good to have you with us this Monday, December 4th, 2023. I am Jason Page, joined by Sam Yarnell shortly. It's just us today. We got a lot to talk about. What a wild weekend in sports, and it promises and is shaping up to be an even wilder week. Shohei Ohtani is in the news. We will get to that. Don't worry, he hasn't signed anywhere yet. At least, hold on, let me look at my watch. It hasn't happened yet. How did Tiger Woods fare in his first full 4-round tournament of his season since returning from injury at the Masters? We'll get into that as well. But we start things out today where just about everybody's starting things out, and that's in college football. And how can you ignore what we saw over the weekend and what we saw on Sunday in terms of how the college football playoff was put together? 4 teams vying for college football supremacy. Now, keep in mind, this is the last year we're going to have this level of chaos, but anybody telling you that the move to 12 teams is going to end debate, that it's going to end conversation as it relates to who should get in, who shouldn't, is out of their minds, because you're always going to have teams 13, 14, 15 that are debating why they didn't get in over teams 10, 11, and 12. So the idea that this all just goes away next year magically and all of the problems and all the ills are cured, think again, it's not the case. So there's a number of ways to sort of break down what took place over the weekend and on Sunday and how we got to where we are. The first one is the TCU effect. And if anybody listened, we had the nationally syndicated radio show last year that I did, the Cash In, on a national basis that we did every night. And the night that Georgia beat the snot out of TCU, I came on the radio that night and every day thereafter and told you this is going to have a profound effect on how this college football playoff operates in years to come. And the reason was simple. The committee got embarrassed. They put their faith in TCU. They listened to the pundits. They listened to the skeptics, the cynics, the lobbyists for why TCU should be in. All of that leading to TCU getting routed in the championship game. Now, granted, they got to the championship game, which means they won their national semifinal. But ultimately, they came up well short in the championship game, which probably was a downer for ratings, which means advertisers weren't happy, which means Disney wasn't happy. Obviously, carrying that championship game, it was a disaster for all involved. And the committee was not going to be made to look foolish again. They weren't going to allow themselves to be put into a position where Florida State became last year's TCU. So as a result, despite the fact that they go undefeated, despite the fact they win yesterday with a freshman quarterback on the field, or on Saturday with a freshman quarterback on the field, Florida State finds itself out. And it's a disgrace. And they should be mad. They should be pissed. Their fans should be pissed. Everybody should be pissed. But you shouldn't be surprised, because the capitulation to the whims of the SEC has been prevalent forever. They're like the Dallas Cowboys of college football. We got to get them on TV. Doesn't matter how good or bad they are, we got to get them on TV. It's like the Yankees and Red Sox during the baseball regular season. You're going to see them a ton against each other. Whether they're good or not, it doesn't really matter, because it's Yankees, Red Sox. The next role of this is TV. And it's why you cannot watch ESPN on Sunday or Monday or Tuesday or in any day leading up to this college football playoff. You can't watch them because they're not a reliable arbiter in this. They are carrying the games. They have the deal with the college football playoff. So when ESPN stands up and says, oh no, this is the way it had to be, I can tell you from experience, having worked for ESPN, having collected a paycheck from the mouse, I can tell you they get their marching orders from above. They can't come out and say the college football playoff screwed this up royally. They can't say it, even if they feel that way, because they're all having their opinions tamped down. So you got to look to objective sources, independent sources for the real breakdown of how all this happened. And again, this isn't going to get better. This isn't going to change with the move to 12 teams. You're just going to be bringing more teams into the equation, into the argument. Best case scenario now, Alabama gets destroyed in the conference semifinal. I don't know if that'll happen. That'd be the best case scenario because then they look terrible. But we all knew they were faced with a number of bad choices. If you put Alabama in, you had to put Texas in. The only argument you could have made at the end of all of this was going to go one of two ways. Florida State and Georgia were going to get in, or Texas and Alabama were going to get in. They couldn't put in Alabama without putting in Texas. They couldn't keep out Florida State without keeping out Georgia. So they chose the path of the SEC. And nobody should be shocked by this. There's a reason that when all of this college football reshuffling takes place, when we say goodbye to the Big 12, which we did this weekend, when we say goodbye to the Pac-12, legendary conferences, there's a reason that one of the ones standing tall at the end of all of it is the SEC. And it's the reason why in that room on Sunday morning, Saturday night, in those backroom conversations, there's a reason why you wound up with Alabama in this championship equation. Yeah, Georgia's out. Okay, fine. But there's a reason why you wound up with Alabama in there. It's because of the fans and the eyeballs they bring to the television. One last thing. You want to really take a lot of the angst and anger out of people that we've seen on Sunday and Monday with Florida State being left out. There's one way to do it. It'll never happen in a million years. But let's talk about it for a second. All you heard on all day Sunday, even with the NFL on, all day Sunday, even all night Saturday night, and you're probably hearing it on Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday of this week, is this great debate over why Florida State should be in or why Florida State should be out. We're hearing that now for days, right? Why can't we have that same public debate that we're seeing all over every media outlet? Why can't we see it when it comes to the College Football Playoff Committee? Put them all in a room together, put a camera in there, put a big boom mic in the middle of the table, and let's hear how they get to their decision. Let's find out how the sausage is made, as you hear in political speak. Why? What do you have to hide as a committee? I think it would be riveting television to hear person A versus person B, the debate between person C and person D, the emotions that well up. We watch it on TV every day on your favorite sports networks. You listen to it every day on your favorite podcast or your favorite sports radio station, if you still listen to sports radio. Why can't we have that same debate? The one being had behind closed doors with nobody in there, to really get to the bottom of why an undefeated team in a Power 5 conference was left out of the mix. Open it up. Let us all see it. With that, we say hello to our good friend Sam Yarnell. He, of course, the terrific young broadcasting dynamo who hangs out with us every day on the show. And Sam, you've heard what I had to say. What do you think?
So I agree with you completely, Jason, which rare time. I completely agree with Jason.
That's bad news for all of us.
But there are things that I want to add, right? So first of all, with the starting at the end, right? Easiest way to start. The committee is never going to let anyone into their meetings because they know that the people who would be judging those meetings from watching them from the outside are smarter than the people who are actually in those meetings and don't merit making the biggest decisions in college football. They have some self-awareness at least, which is good. Second of all, we saw Boo Corrigan, Boo Radley, who, as I like to call him, come on the air 15 minutes after the selections were made and say that at the end of the day, the committee wanted to see certain people in the playoffs and that FSU was a different team without Jordan Travis, which is true. Their margin of victory went down 20 points in the last 2 games of the season. Easily. Fine. That said, there's precedent here where in the past, 2019, the 2018 college football season, the 2019 playoff had every undefeated team. It was another year where we had 3 12-0 teams, 2 deserving one-loss SEC teams. Coincidentally, they were Alabama and Georgia again. And I think Utah was the other good one-loss team that year. And they went with Alabama. There was precedent here for them to make this decision. My biggest problem with all of it, Jason, is keeping Florida State at number 5. I'll be honest, I didn't come up with this take myself. I read it on the internet, but it makes a lot of sense, and I completely agree with it. Keeping Florida State at number 5 keeping them above teams like Ohio State, teams like Oregon, that doesn't make sense to me. If you really want to say that Florida State was so much worse of a team without Jordan Travis in games that they won, move them down to number 9. Move them down to a place where they're still playing in a New Year's Six bowl, but it wasn't really ever close for them making the playoffs. Moving them to number 5 makes even less sense for me. Now you've got them ahead of Georgia, which if you're going to put them ahead of Georgia, you've got to put them in the college football playoff. At the end of the day, my 4 were Michigan, Washington, Florida State, and Texas. I think that resume-wise, you couldn't decide. You couldn't pick against those 4 teams unless you're the college football playoff committee who continues year in, year out, year in, year out to make their tournament the SEC Invitational, which is fine. That's totally okay, but let's call it that. Let's call it the SEC Invitational, where everyone comes and plays against an SEC team, because that's the reality of what it is at this point.
They cannot be trusted. They just simply cannot be trusted to be the arbiter of who are the best teams, whether it's 4, whether it's 8, whether it's 12. We're like I said, people who think this problem just magically disappears next year, they're out of their minds, because you're still going to have the debate of, basically 10 through 14, 10 through 15, with 12 getting in terms of trying to figure out, whether or not this committee gets it right or not. And again, there's no rhyme or reason. There's no rule. There had been precedent, all this time. Not that it's a ton of time, but there's been precedent that's been set in terms of, these Power 5 conferences and being undefeated. And if you're the ACC, you have to wonder out loud, are we really a power conference? Because we just got treated like we weren't one.
Well, they've got Clemson, right? And they're a basketball conference. So at the end of the day, they'll stay a power conference. Here's the thing.
How much power do you have, though, when you can't even get in with an undefeated team?
If the 12, I want to go back to a point you just made, though, because if these decisions are only going to get harder. If the 12-team playoff were alive this year, you know who the 12th team would have been make it?
I was just looking at it this morning.
Liberty. Number 23, Liberty, would have made the college football playoff, being the last group of 5 champion. Oh my gosh. Seriously? Listen, I have a friend from high school who played football at Liberty. I don't have anything against their program. You put them up against Alabama, it's going to be like the Miami Dolphins and the Denver Broncos week 2. That's what that game is going to look like. 77-0.
Yeah. I agree. We'll talk about it more tomorrow on the show. Bill Bender will be by to hang out with us from the Sporting News. We'll get his thoughts on the way it all transpired. And now you can all get into your college football bowl pools. Do you do those? Where you pick every game? Our friend Dave in Connecticut, who watches and listens to the show, has a college football bowl pool. I've already gotten about 7 emails about it. Don't worry, Dave. I'll get in. Coming up, it's week number 13 in the NFL to talk about. And oh, was it an interesting one. More outcomes that have us scratching our heads and realizing we don't know a lot about the NFL, or maybe some of us know more than you think we do. Plus, how did Sam and I do on Page versus the Prince? Good news is we both did well. We're coming back. It's the Sports Wrap on a Monday. We continue on this Monday edition of the Sports Wrap. Time to recap Week 13 around the National Football League. Rejoined by Sam Yarnell. Hangs out with us every day on the show. All right, Sam. Let's start with the obvious. The 2 big games of the day that got a lot of attention. Niners and Eagles. San Francisco goes into Philadelphia, and look, they were a favorite for a reason, and now we know why. And yes, the Eagles had some injuries, but I mean, here's the thing that I guess is most alarming for me, if you're a Philadelphia fan. The Niners started that game very slow offensively. First 3 possessions, they didn't really do anything. And you're Philadelphia, you have a 6-0 lead. And then the Niners made adjustments. And you would expect Philadelphia, in turn, to make adjustments. And there were no adjustments to be made. And maybe some of that, again, is just the breadth of talent that we're talking about on this San Francisco roster, from, QB1 all the way through wide receiver 2 or 3 and the running backs and all of this stuff. And maybe some of it is the injuries too. But I'm just trying to figure out why Kyle Shanahan was able to make adjustments. They go into halftime, and Philadelphia comes out in the second half. Yeah, they get the touchdown, and we have the whole thing with Big Dom and all that stuff. We'll get into all that. But just in terms of the on-the-field stuff, San Francisco just steamrolled here.
Shout out to Big Dom. I thought that was really cool. Listen, this is going to sound weird, Jason. I'm still not worried about the Eagles. I don't know why. I don't know what it was about this game. I think that maybe it's because the Eagles are in the middle of this gauntlet, or I'm not sure. But I'm not sold. I'm still not sold on the 49ers being better than the Philadelphia Eagles. I think if these teams matched up next week in the NFC Championship game, Philadelphia would be booking their tickets to Las Vegas. I don't think San Francisco would. At the end of the day, Philadelphia is still going to have the 1 seed, so we are probably going to see this matchup again in the playoffs in the NFC Championship game. I'm not worried about the Eagles. You're right. They did not make the adjustments, which is what they did to win the Bills game. Let's not forget about that. They were not looking good at halftime in that game, and they completely turned it around in the second half. Different 11 guys on the field, it seemed like, almost. That was a switch that they were not able to flip yesterday. But it wasn't like San Francisco kept them from flipping that switch. It was like the Eagles kept themselves from flipping that switch. So, and like you mentioned, it could have been because of the Hurts injury. It could have been something else that we don't know about. I'm not worried about the Eagles just yet. They're still 10-2. They're still the best team record-wise in the National Football Conference.
I saw a Niners team yesterday from a defensive standpoint that was able to do something few teams have been able to do, and that is shut down those Eagles receivers. And they essentially turned them into not a one-dimensional team, but there was no dimension. There wasn't anything that Philadelphia could do consistently well in that football game. And here's the bottom line, and we've talked about this all season long when it comes to San Francisco and stacking them up against the rest of football. They have the best roster, player one through the last guy on the roster. And if they are healthy, as they were yesterday going into this game, nobody's beating them. If they are healthy, nobody is beating them, except themselves, potentially. You know, you saw a moment yesterday where briefly, they started to get behind the chains, and you might have started to worry a little bit. That's where you can get San Francisco, if you can get them off schedule, if you can get them. But so few teams are able to do that against this team when they are fully healthy. There's just the complement of weapons on this team is simply too much. The roster composition is the best in football. And if they are healthy, nobody's beating San Francisco. That's why I had them in the Super Bowl. Now, granted, I think I had them in the Super Bowl against Cincinnati, and that was when we thought Joe Burrow would be healthy for an entire season. But at this point, there isn't anything to dissuade me from the idea. They went into Philadelphia. That was such a beatdown yesterday that I don't care if Philadelphia gets home field. Doesn't matter to me if Philadelphia gets home field. San Francisco went in there yesterday on a crappy field. The weather wasn't great, and they absolutely stomped out that Eagles team. And let me just say this. This big Dom Greenlaw sort of dust up on the sideline. Yeah, if this goofy, dorky security guard, and by the way, there's a zillion security guards in the building. Why do you need one next to you the entire game, Nick Sirianni? You don't. It's stupid. This guy's gotten way too much press over the last couple of weeks. If this guy's such a tough guy, let's put him in the same room. We'll lock him in a room with Greenlaw, and then we'll see how tough he is. Don't give me this tough guy stuff when you got 17 people in between you and this guy who would absolutely kick the crap out of you. And then you get in his face, he responds, he gets ejected, the security guy gets ejected. It was a great trade-off for the Eagles. Thankfully, it didn't matter in the overall scheme of the game. But this guy's a joke. He doesn't belong on the sideline. The NFL should kick him out for the rest of the year.
We'll get to that in a minute because there's a more pressing issue. I understand your points about everything you're saying with the 49ers, Jason, but what you're saying to me screams regular season team. Again, this is a concept I've talked about for weeks on end on this show. The 49ers are a great team talent-wise. They are maybe a top 5 team in NFL history talent-wise. Look at both sides of the ball. My gosh, how do you fit that much talent under the NFL salary cap? It feels like they're cheating. When is the last time that we saw a successful playoff offense where the quarterback isn't the best player in it? Think about it. I've been thinking back to a Super Bowl offense where the quarterback is not the best player in that offense. I think the answer may be the Rams.
You're saying a Super Bowl winning team?
Team in the Super Bowl.
Okay,
I think the answer may be the Rams. Maybe. There could be an argument to be made that at one point when the Bucs made it, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin were better than Tom Brady. Maybe.
But we've always argued. But the thing is, we've always argued with this team, Sam, that it's about the sum of the parts. That they can't be missing a Christian McCaffrey or a Deebo Samuel or an Ayuk. That they need everybody. Right. That they need everybody. So I don't think the quarterback has to be the best player on the team in order for this team to win a Super Bowl.
Since he's not, I think that what you said at the beginning is a product of what you said at the end, right? I think them not having a quarterback who is sustainable as a star quarterback on a good team in the NFL causes them to have these massive holes when any single piece of that offense is missing. Ayuk's missing, they suck. Devo's missing, they suck. Christian McCaffrey's missing, they can't do anything.
Let's assume health. If they are healthy, going into Super Bowl, who's beating them?
No. Anyone. That's my point.
They
are they're a regular season team the way that they're constructed, right? Because when you go into a Super Bowl with an offense where the quarterback is not the best player in the offense,
doesn't have to be.
It doesn't happen.
Doesn't
it
have to
doesn't
be.
happen.
Two best teams in the conference. They've stomped both of them into submission.
Okay.
And there's nothing to tell me that changes when we get to the postseason. If they're healthy. If they're healthy.
Postseason football is different. Postseason football is different.
This isn't the NBA where they don't play any defense in the whole regular season, and then you get to the playoffs and everybody plays defense. It's not the same thing.
No, it's not. But also, it's not a non-differentiating factor by any stretch of the imagination. You can't tell me that a playoff atmosphere is different than I don't care what regulars. You cannot tell me that game last night had anywhere near the same atmosphere as it would have if it were taking place on January whatever with a chance to Las Vegas.
I don't disagree with that.
And Brock Purdy will not be able to handle that environment because he's small. And in Iowa, they don't have those.
There isn't anything that points to your last statement being true. Not a single thing. Because all the guy has done is win. Again, when he has his full complement of players. I'm not saying the guy is Aaron Rodgers or Drew Brees. And by the way, this conversation about his yards per average reception or whatever, it's 9.5 and it's the highest ever and all of this stuff. And the other guys who have done it are either Hall of Famers or won Super Bowls. There's no comparison between him and the guys on that list, or that those guys have won MVPs and some are suggesting, whoa, is he an MVP? No, he's not an MVP. The MVP, as a matter of fact, it's not most valuable player when it comes to the Niners. It's most valuable roster. It's most valuable GM for the way that they've constructed this thing. But I will ride this horse until it bucks. If that team is healthy, nobody's beating them. Again, we like to try and look sometimes for reasons to be contrary and for reasons to think something different. Oh, he's from Iowa. Oh, he's not that big. Oh, when X, Y, and Z and these guys don't play, look at his numbers. But the reality is, if that team is healthy, go back to Occam's razor. The most logical explanation is probably the one that makes the most sense, and that is they will win the Super Bowl if they're healthy. If they're healthy, nobody's beating them. There's nobody beating them.
I mean, it's a hard caveat to add, right? Because odds are you have so many pieces, like saying everyone needs to stay healthy in the NFL. At that point, you're talking about 5 different people not getting injured over the course of a 9-week stretch, which is just unrealistic. So yeah, sure. If everyone stays healthy, then if everyone stayed healthy on the Bills, they would have won the Super Bowl this year.
Nah, I don't think so.
I mean, but the logic is consistent.
No, but the logic isn't consistent because you have a quarterback that doesn't value not turning over the football in Buffalo. And you don't have that in San Francisco with Brock Purdy. There's a difference. And again, I think if
Patrick Mahomes has a worse touchdown to interception ratio than Josh Allen.
Great, and they have one of the best defenses in football. If not the best.
But I'm saying that you can't say that he doesn't value not turning over the football when he has a better touchdown to interception ratio than the best quarterback in the league.
I'm not calling Patrick Mahomes necessarily the best quarterback in the league. I mean,
I think hands down, Patrick. Who's better, Jalen Hurts?
I think there's a lot of guys that are on the same level.
This is a great Jason question. Is Lamar Jackson better than Patrick Mahomes?
This year he is. This year he is, absolutely. This year he has been a better quarterback than Patrick Mahomes.
Clip it.
Absolutely.
I need it clipped. Get the interns on it. I need it clipped.
This year?
I need it clipped.
Are you disagreeing?
Not at all. Not at all.
Exactly.
It's just great to hear that come out of your mouth.
Because I can be objective about it. I don't have any skin in the game. My team sucks. I'm a Giants fan. I have no skin in this game. I mean, my team can't be worse this year.
Tommy DeVito. Okay, wait. Speaking of Tommy DeVito and Italians, we got to get back to this Dom thing because I tabled that to talk about how Brock Purdy is still mid because he's still mid. Dom DeVito.
Trent Dilfer was worse than mid. Brad Johnson was worse than mid. Those teams won Super Bowls too. Anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
That's a good point. And, those would be the examples of times where offenses were Super Bowl winning offenses and the quarterback was not the best player in those offenses. Those are great examples of Brad Johnson.
Talk about Big Dom.
Big Dom. Big Dom, come on. How can you not like this guy?
Nope.
First of all, disagree with you with the whole put him and Dre Greenlaw in a room. Oh my God. Dom might sit on him and Dre Greenlaw would not be able to breathe and it would be over.
It'd be a bad TikTok video. He'd get his ass kicked.
So also, Big Dom is the assistant to the general manager. He's the head of security for the Philadelphia Eagles. He travels with them across the country. He's also Nick Sirianni's get back guy, which is why he was there. He's the one who stands behind Nick Sirianni whenever he's too close to getting on the field. And he literally has a hook on the back of his pants that he pulls him back by. Every major football coach that's... What?
I mean, really? You're a head coach. You need that. I guarantee you, Bill Belichick does not have one on the back of his pants.
No, but the majority of NFL, college, and even some big high school coaches have them because it's a stupid way to cost your team 15 yards, and it's not that big of an investment that the team has to make into one person.
You don't get in a player's face, though. You don't get in a player's face, and he did. It wasn't his place.
He was in the place where he was doing his job, right? He was standing right behind Nick Sirianni. He was standing on the sideline, out of bounds, within the place where he is allowed to be to do his job. And Dre Greenlaw comes out of bounds, chasing after Devontae Smith, and then runs into this big white Italian guy, doesn't know what hit him, and all of a sudden starts putting his finger in his face like a little.
First of all, Dom put his hand on him first. You can't put your hand on the player and then not expect the player to react. That's ridiculous.
When they go out of bounds into the sideline chasing after one of your star players, you can do whatever the hell you want.
Stop with the chasing. He's not chasing. They're right on the edge of the field, not going after anybody. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. And I hope the league takes action. They're gonna. The league's gonna whack Philadelphia for this, and they should. This guy's a clown.
Oh my gosh.
This guy's a clown.
You probably hate that kid who got banned for his credential for when Tyreek Hill ran over to him.
No, I defended him last week. See, you didn't get to hear the end of the show last week because you were gone on Friday.
I get cut out from the last segment
because you had to go. You had to go. Fridays is a short day for you. I actually went out of my way to praise him and say how the NFL gets that terribly wrong. There's a big difference between that.
It's the same thing.
No, it's not.
They're both just there doing their jobs.
That could have turned into a very ugly scene. That could have turned into a very ugly scene with somebody who has no right to be in that, who has zero reason to be in that situation. Back your ass up. You want to be the security guy? You want to protect Sirianni? Fine. If that's your job, you're a security guy. If Sirianni is your responsibility, then I get it. But outside of that, you're not putting your fingers in players' faces, tell them to shut the F up. That's not your spot. That's not your role. Know your role. It's about know your role. Stay in your lane. And he was not in his lane. And he's lucky because Greenlaw showed restraint there. He still winds up getting thrown out of a game.
Dre Greenlaw is soft. I'm putting that out there right now. Dre Greenlaw, if you're listening to this, you are soft for what you did.
I'll put you in a room with him too.
Do it. I'll sit on him. He won't have a chance.
We're coming back. Monday Night Football preview is right around the corner. Who do we like in tonight's game? Does it really matter? Odds and ends, too. Don't go anywhere. SportsWrap continues on this Monday following Week 13 in the NFL. There is a Monday Night Football game to preview, and we will do that coming up here in a couple of minutes. We being me and Sam Yarnell. A couple of quickies before we get to that Monday Night Football preview, Sam. Chiefs-Packers last night. I tell you, Packers are playing good football right now. I mean, I know we can talk about the Chiefs and the offensive problems and all of that. And they might win a Super Bowl. If they do, it's going to be a grind for them to get to a Super Bowl, given the problems we've seen with that offense. All of that being said, that last minute of NFL football last night at Lambeau Field might have been the worst officiated final minute of an NFL game that I can remember. Hank Iba is rolling in his grave right now. If you don't know who Hank Iba is, go and look it up. I mean, the only thing missing was, Russian officials to take the game away from Kansas City late in that game. How do you not call pass interference late in that game? Telling you, man, the NFL's got a huge problem when it comes to confidence in officiating and confidence in the result that you're seeing in these games. And I don't know how they get around it, but I've said this all along too. The impetus for change will not come unless fans revolt in a massive way, and Americans are too addicted to their football to do that. So there will be no change. You will continue to get controversial endings. You'll continue to get craptastic officiating because fans are willing to accept that.
This was awesome. This game was great. It was the Sam Yarnell Bowl. Everything that I have been talking about this season, last week, leading up to this game, all came to fruition except for the one pick I gave out about that game. But let's not worry about that. The Green Bay Packers, the Pittsburgh Steelers suck. We'll get to them later. The Green Bay Packers, playoff contenders. Hello, Jordan Love. He's him. The Packers are back. The Packer back. Let's get on the bandwagon while we can. I love this Green Bay Packers team. Not as much as I love the Houston Texans, but that's a horse of a different color. The Packers looked awesome. The Chiefs really struggled in this game against a team that, quite frankly, the Packers won this game without being in rhythm, really, at any point. I felt like they were marching down the field, sure, but it never felt like they were operating truly in rhythm in this game. And they still won it. They still beat that Chiefs defense. They still hung 21 plus on a Chiefs defense that, has been top 5 pretty much the entire year. Yeah. You're right, Jason. The Chiefs are going to struggle to get back to the Super Bowl. That's why I said they were a pretender to repeat as Super Bowl favorites last week on the program. Aside from all that, again, the product on field for the NFL. I don't know how many Mondays I'm going to have to come on this show and say it, but it's going to be this whole season. I know it's going to be this whole season. It'll probably be the playoffs too. They got to do something. This time it was the officiating. It's something different every week, but this is 2 weeks in a row where it really feels like the second or third best game of the day was severely hindered by horrible officiating, which is bad because I thought the first 58 and a half, and I think Terry McCauley or whoever was on the broadcast as the rules analyst last night said this too. I thought the first 58 and a half minutes of that game were officiated beautifully, which is something I very seldom say. And every official just chose to call a different rule book in the last 90 to 97 seconds of that game. I don't remember exactly what the timestamps were, but the NFL is going to start losing viewers. I know that's a concept that seems hard for us to even imagine, and it may not be next year. It may not be in 2 years, but if they keep doing what they're doing this season for 5 years, 10 years, my generation is going to give up.
I don't think so. I think we are too addicted to our football in this country. That's it. I mean, people turn the page. We forget quickly, and for every bad call that affects a team, that same bad call affects another team in a positive way. So they don't care. In Green Bay, you think they're complaining about the officiating today? They don't care. Even though just a couple of plays before what should have been that pass interference call, you had as equally a bad a call when Patrick Mahomes runs to the sideline, is still in bounds, gets hit by the defensive player for the Packers, gets blown up, quite frankly, and you wind up with a flag. Why? Because he got hit hard? He was still in bounds. He slowed up going towards the sideline. I mean, it was terrible. Awful. So just a terribly officiated final minute of that game. And again, it's going to hurt when it comes to confidence in those betting on the games. I mean, it's a crisis of confidence in a number of different ways. Dolphins beat the Commanders yesterday. I don't care. It's like clubbing baby seals. That's fine. Here's the thing, though. And when I was thinking about this yesterday, just beat the teams you're supposed to beat in this league. The one thing you could say about the Dolphins is Okay, they've lost to the Eagles. They've lost one game to the Bills, early in the season when the Bills were the Bills. They have another loss somewhere in there. It's escaping me offhand. But Miami beats the teams they're supposed to beat every year. Or every week. Miami wins the games they're supposed to win. And if you just do that as an NFL team, you're going to be in the playoffs every year. And here they are, tied for, I believe, tied for the best record in the AFC right now. I don't have the standings in front of me, but I'm pretty sure they're tied for the best record in the AFC right now. Are they the best team in the AFC? Questionable at best. But the fact of the matter is, you win the games you're supposed to win. You don't have those slip-ups. You don't go and lose to the Jets. You don't go and lose to these teams that are inferior than you. Miami does what they're supposed to do. They get a win yesterday. And by the way, Tyreek Hill, the numbers are insane. It should be him or Christian McCaffrey that is your MVP. I don't think it will be, but it should be because they love to give the award to the quarterback. But boy, the numbers, he's going to put up 2,000 yards receiving this year.
And easily. Brock Purdy has better odds to win the award than him.
It's nuts.
Sickening.
It is.
Sickening.
I agree. I don't disagree with you. As we get later into this season, I am seeing it more your way.
Brock Purdy's 50 cents behind Jalen Hurts. As of those numbers were as of right after the game last night.
And Dak Prescott's ahead of both of them. Dak Prescott is plus 300. Jalen Hurts is plus 350. Brock Purdy is plus 350.
What are we doing?
Mahomes is plus 600. Tua is plus 800. Lamar Jackson is plus 800. To get to Tyreek Hill, you got to go down to plus 2,000. Christian McCaffrey's lower than that at plus 3,000.
You're going to call me a homer for saying this. You are.
Probably.
That just goes to show how much the players you're around impacts somebody winning the most valuable player award, right? Statistically, again, I know I'm going to sound like a homer here, but facts are facts. Josh Allen is having a better season than Patrick Mahomes. Josh Allen was not even listed there. Patrick Mahomes is 5-1. Josh Allen is having a statistically comparable season to Jalen Hurts, who is the second favorite to win this award. It's broken. It's broken.
Josh Allen, Trevor Lawrence, and Christian McCaffrey, by the way, are all plus 3,000.
That's ridiculous. Christian McCaffrey and Josh Allen, I would say, are probably equally as deserving, and both of them should probably be plus 600.
Find something to throw. I'm going to throw it here just for the sake of throwing something. There. Look at the egg. Come on, find something. Find something to throw. There you go.
It was almost the Max Scherzer snow globe.
No, don't throw a snow globe. That'd be a mess.
It was almost the Max Scherzer snow globe.
Yeah, no, you don't want to do that. All right, let's get to the Monday Night Football preview. There is a game tonight that we have to talk about. And look, I don't trust Jackson. I know this sounds crazy for somebody who's a big Jaguars guy. I don't trust Jacksonville tonight, minus 9.5. I do not trust the Jags.
You in the Cincinnati Bengals?
Yeah, but plus 9.5. It's kind of juicy.
It's the Cincinnati Bengals.
Plus 9.5. They're minus 104. More juice to the Jags at minus 118, minus 9.5. Bengals on the money line plus 385. That's intriguing. The Jaguars minus 500. This is one again. This is one of those games where I could see the Jaguars slipping up, losing a game they're supposed to win at home. This has got that kind of. I know. What is that?
Flounder.
What is that you're doing? Oh, is that flounder? Okay, but that's
them floundering.
This is one of those games that has Jags kind of slip up written all over it. 39.5 the total too, by the way. We're starting to buck the trend.
Money line.
The thing is, we're starting to buck the trend of these primetime unders. Like last night, Prime time over. You're slowly starting to see a regression to the mean here, with prime times, starting to go over. I might be tempted into the over and Cincinnati plus 9.5. Not that I would parlay, because you parlay to lose. I think I like the Jags plus 9.5. Over 39.5. Give me some player props. Do we have any player props we really like tonight?
Yep, here we go. So we're going to go, this is just my card. We're going to go Bengals plus 9.5. We're going to go Bengals money line. We're going to go Jake Browning passing yards. We're alting that up to 250 plus. His current number is 216.5. So 250 plus on Jake Browning passing yards gives us plus 210. And just for good measure, we're going to throw in a Jamar Chase anytime touchdown at plus 220.
Why do you get greedy with alting? Why?
I may go Jamar Chase first touchdown at 12 to 1.
Just don't get greedy, man. 216.5. Browning over 216.5. Don't go crazy. You don't need to go alting. You get greedy, you lose. You know who gets caught robbing the bank? Not the bank robber. It's the bank robber who tries to rob a second or a third bank. Anybody can rob a bank once. You go in with a Snickers bar, you point it at the teller, you make it look like a gun, you get $1,000 or $2,000, whatever they got handy, and you run off into the woods and you're fine. You know who gets caught? The dummy who tries to rob a bank a second or a third or a fourth time. That's when you get just rob one bank tonight. Browning over 216.5. You don't need to go crazy. Calm down.
We'll see.
Easy, Sam. No alting necessary.
I'm alting it.
Don't do it.
I'm alting it. It's alted. It's been alted.
I am wise.
The ticket for the alt is in. So I can't un-alt it. It has been alted.
I tried, ladies and gentlemen. Tried to help our young man. All right. Odds and ends. What do you say we finish the show with some odds and ends? There is Shohei Ohtani news, kinda. Matter of fact, there's actually a couple of interesting Shohei Ohtani stories I want to get to. One Sam will be aware of. The other, I can almost guarantee he will not be aware of. How did Tiger Woods fare in his first 4-round tournament of the season? Here's the good news. He's healthy. It's all that matters. Don't bet against Tiger. Don't bet against Tiger. Don't bet against Tiger to win a major this year. I'm telling you. Don't do it.
I'm doing it.
We're coming back with more of the Sports Wrap. All right, before we say goodbye, some odds and ends to tie things up with. Sam's actually hanging out for odds and ends today. We like that. Shohei Ohtani going to make his decision about who he's signing with sometime in the next week. All right, Sam. Give me your prediction. Who do you think he winds up signing with?
Jason, who do I think he ends up signing with? Short answer.
That was the question.
The San Francisco Giants. Long answer. I don't think any of us should care. I talked about this on the show a couple of weeks ago. There's so gosh darn many good Major League Baseball free agents out there that, quite frankly, in 2024 will offer more to their teams than Shohei Ohtani will. That's what we should be discussing, because as these baseball winter meetings get started, there are going to be so many big names signing. I mean, we had a trade last night that should have made waves, right? Jared Kelenic, the Mariners are now punting on. There's so many other big baseball stories out there. I kind of hate that this is just taking this and the Yamamoto thing. They're taking over the world. We got so many great free agents out there, and Soto might get traded.
Odds to sign Shohei Ohtani, latest odds on it, courtesy of Bet365. because FanDuel apparently doesn't have odds on it. FanDuel, the unofficial sports book of the SportsWrap. Unofficial because they don't pay us. The Dodgers are minus 200. The Blue Jays come in second at plus 275. I can't imagine him ever landing in Toronto.
They have the money to sign him, but
the Cubs at plus 550. Seattle at plus 900. The Giants at plus 900.
Give me it.
The Yankees at plus 1,400. Along with the Angels at plus 1,400.
What are the Nationals listed at?
They're not on the front page. So, sorry.
There's a little sneak peek, folks. They're not even offering the lines because they know that he's so likely to sign with the Nats.
That seems like wishful thinking. Another Ohtani story, kind of interesting. So last week, a baseball card was pulled from Topps Definitive. It was a 1-of-1 autographed. It was a card with a Ohtani autograph with him pitching and an autograph of Babe Ruth with Babe Ruth pitching. The card was pulled on a live stream from Fanatics.com, which owns Topps. Here's the thing. It was pulled during a card break. And for people who don't understand card breaks, I'll give you the Cliff Notes version of it is this. You buy into a break and you get assigned a team, or you buy a particular team. In this case, one person had bought the Angels, one person had bought the Yankees. You can't split the card in half. So what do? When a card like that gets pulled, it causes a bit of a conundrum. Well, the card breaker that pulled the card said, I will pay $100,000 for this card. So the two guys split $50,000. They bought in for $750 each. Into this break, they made a profit of $49,250 because that card got pulled. Now, there is another one of those cards signed by Babe Ruth and signed by Ohtani with them hitting. It's in the same set. That card, as of this moment, Monday, December 4th, 2023, that card has not been pulled, at least to nobody's knowledge. Nobody's made it public if it has been pulled. So very interesting note from the card world. All right, Tiger Woods. I was all excited last Thursday for Tiger to make his return. He made his return at the Hero event, his event that he hosts down there in the Bahamas, I believe it is.
Yep.
I think Scotty Scheffler won the tournament. Nobody really cares because all anybody really showed up for was to see how Tiger would do. But I believe Scotty Scheffler was your winner of the event. Seb Straka finished second at 17 under. Justin Thomas was 16 under, finished in third. Tiger finished 18th in the 20-player field. He shot even par, 288. He opened with a 75 on Thursday, followed that up with rounds of 70, 71, and 72. Here's the good news. He played 4 rounds. He walked 4 rounds. He felt good after 4 rounds physically. And obviously, he's just got to tighten up some things on the course. But I still saw the signs that Tiger could hang with these guys at this level. And when it comes to Augusta National, I would not bet against Tiger Woods. By the time we get to that point in the season, I think his game will be in good shape. And here's the other interesting thing to watch for this year. Tiger says his goal is to play at least one tournament a month. This isn't going to be a deal where he just shows up for the 4 majors and then that's all you see of Tiger. Tiger's talking about playing more. And if he's talking about playing more, that means he knows physically his body can hold up to playing more. And if Tiger plays more competitive rounds, I don't know if it's this year, if it's next year, if it's I would not bet against Tiger winning another major, though.
I would just like to say that when we were having this discussion last Thursday and we were talking about the Hero World Challenge, I said that my 2 favorites to win were Max Homa and Scotty Scheffler, and Scotty was 13-1 at the time. So I hope you got those tickets in, folks. That's where I'm going to leave it out with the Hero World Challenge. With Tiger Woods, he showed us something over the weekend for sure, that at this point in his life, he is a scratch golfer, which is insanely impressive. I would kill, literally, I would kill to be a scratch golfer at my age as a 23-year-old whose body works completely fine. Tiger Woods is no longer a tour level professional golfer. It's fine. It's where he's at. He'll do great on the senior tours, and he's got to wait a couple of years for those. But Tiger Woods is an all-time great in the sport of golf. One who, obviously I grew up at the back half of that legendary run, but still watched some of it and saw it enough to understand that, like, we could compare him as much as we want to Serena Williams or LeBron James, these other Michael Jordan, these other GOATs that we talk about in their sports. It's hard to say anyone has had a truly better run in their sport than Tiger Woods did. And he was great. And we should remember him for that and not the darker moments of his career. He is not a tour level professional golfer at this point.
Ridiculous. Of course he still is. Statistically, he can still hit it further than most of those guys he played with this weekend, and he did. All the stuff I watched a lot of him because I'm one of those people that when Tiger's on the course, it's just always must watch TV for me. The things that led him to shoot what he did, which was 18th out of the 20 player field, had nothing to do with still physical ability. It's all mental sharpness. A couple of times it was decision making with certain clubs in certain spots. He blew a few putts past. He hit a putt on Friday. He hit a putt off the green into a sand trap. He hit a putt into a bunker. That's how bad it was. That's stuff you can fix. That's stuff you can tighten up. That has nothing to do with the physical ability. Anybody who questions whether or not Tiger can still compete from a mental standpoint, you'd be out of your mind. He's one of the mentally toughest guys.
Of course.
In all sports.
Of course.
And I think those are things he can tighten up. The problem is playing practice rounds on your home course or, at some fancy course somewhere is a big difference from playing competitive golf, from playing competition golf. And I think he's going to have an opportunity, if healthy. That's a big if. I think if he's healthy, he's going to have a chance to play a lead-up tournament going into a major and not just show up at Augusta National in April and think, hey, I'm going to be able to compete with the best golfers in the world. I think if he's healthy and he can play once a month like he's talking about, maybe twice a month in the case of the months where majors are taking place, I still think he can win. I really do. And I don't think that's an indictment on, what the rest of the golf world looks like if he does. I just think it's a testament to the guy's greatness. I really do. And I'm looking forward to seeing him healthy for 4 rounds, 10 times this year if he plays that many times in 2024. If he play, I wonder what would we set the over under on tournaments for him? I'll set it at 8.5.
3.5.
You think he only plays 3.5 tournaments? You think he's only going to play 3.5 tournaments?
Because here's why. I playing once a month is great. And I hear you with the mental side of the example of missing the putt. Or, I didn't watch the whole tournament beginning to end, but from what I saw, he struggled a lot with his short game. He did. Yes. He was fixable. Missing greens left and right. It is, but there are points in his swing at this point in his life where you can see that even if he doesn't have physical liabilities, or if there aren't things about his body that are currently holding him back, his swing has evolved so much from when he was at the top of his game that I don't think it's at the point where he can constantly compete. The putting thing that you're mentioning, right? Feel on a putt is a very physical. It's probably the most physical part of putting, right? Putting is any golfer will tell you 80% mental, but the 20% that is physical, it seems like it's not there for him. And there's, like you say, there's always the chance he can build it back. But I think that part of building it back means staying healthy while you do it, right? And working a little bit overtime to try and get built back. And quite frankly, Jason, to me, every time we've seen Tiger try and do that I would say the last 3 times he's tried to come back like this, he does exactly what he's doing. He plays mediocre, middle of the pack golf for 2 to 3 tournaments. And then one of the injuries acts up and he's got to lock it down again. He's got to sit it down again. I want history to not repeat itself, but I think it will. And I don't see him playing more than 3 tournaments this year.
I was looking to see if Tiger was listed on the major specials over on FanDuel, but I do not.
If you're playing him to win a later major now, that might be smart.
To win a major in 2024. I do not see him on the list of players I'm looking at. So I'll have to see if that changes, but I do not see him on the list. For the Masters, though, see, when I look up the Masters, right now you can get him at 75-1. Plus 75.
He has the career 75. Grand Slam, right?
Oh, God, yeah. He's had that forever. Plus 70.
Yeah, so
he's plus 70.
That's interesting.
He's plus 7,500 to win the Masters. That's the one I would give him the best chance to win because he knows that course like the back of his hand.
Yeah.
And that's the one where if I were gonna give him a puncher's chance, I would give him a puncher's chance to win the Masters because it's just that event means so much, obviously, to him. But plus 7,500 right now on Tiger to win the Masters. That's going to do it for us on this Monday edition of the show. A full Monday Night Football recap coming up on Wednesday. We're not here tomorrow. That's right. I have the day off because I'm playing PGA West, the stadium course, home of the Amex Championship, coming up in January on the PGA Tour. Tomorrow's media day, so I will be out there. We're back on Wednesday with a full recap of Monday Night Football. Bill Bender was supposed to join us tomorrow. That's not going to happen. He's going to have to join us on Wednesday. So there will be no podcast on Tuesday. We are back on Wednesday with the Sports Wrap. Sam, I'll be thinking of you when I'm out there on the first tee tomorrow, though.
I should be there with you, Jason.
That's a wrap for us on this Monday. I'll see you on Wednesday.